Whoa, we're having video problems again. Bear with me just a second, guys. I'll be right back with you. All right, the camera battery's doing that thing. But anyway, welcome everybody. It's good to see you, and soon it will be good to be seen by you. As quick as I get warm, as quick as that gets warmed up. Last night it was audio problems. Tonight it's video problems. That's how it goes. But if you're wondering who I am having all these technical issues, it is me, Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live on a Wednesday evening, and I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful one this evening, because I know I am. Anyway, Bob Schultz with the Fifth Element. You got to like it. Aziz, lights! Anyway, hello, Bob Schultz, Wave of Mutilation, FM, CS Recon, Tony Wagenhauser, Robert Phillips, Rob Turner. Hello, hello, hello. I hope you are all having an absolutely wonderful one, and I'll be making my appearance here in just a moment, as soon as we get that settled down. And are you going to work now? Let's see. Let's click camera on. Hey, there I am. There I am. Good to see you, everybody. I hope you're having a good one. And let me ask you a favor, if you would. If you're just tuning in, if you're wondering what the heck is going on around here, what it is that I am doing that is so gosh darn important, well, stick around and check it out, because I think you'll enjoy exactly what we've got going on. And if you haven't already, please, please, please click the subscribe button and click the bell icon for notifications to find out about all the fun stuff that we do. And boy, we had a lot of fun last night. Last night we played some AD&D. We got caught up on what was going on in the campaign a little bit. We had a shorter crowd than usual, just a fewer number of players. But what we did have going on was there was a good amount of gameplay. And if you're not familiar with first edition AD&D, the party had returned from an adventure, and they had a lot of interesting magic items. We had an adventure in just identifying and tracking all of the XP for magic items and for treasure, and the identification of those magic items. For example, they wound up with a chaotic evil +3 sword. So now they've got to figure out what to do with that. But anyway, it was a good fun time of inventory checking out and finding out what was going. Who knows what'll happen next week? Like I say, there's no schedule here. Okay, there's no plan. There's no script. We play adventure modules. We play adventures I've created up. Sometimes the dice tell a story that none of us were expecting. And that's what last night was like. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, I think. And I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I really do hope you enjoyed it too. Kabuki Kid, hello. How are you? Good to see you there. But anyhow, so yeah, I handed out some loot, and a lot of people were saying, good Lord, this is a lot of treasure. But really, it wasn't that much. It wasn't that much. And that, there was a division that went on with that loot. Yeah. Yeah, there was. So let's dive into that. Let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of people, I think, are under the impression that first edition AD&D was Monty Hall. And we kind of run into a series of cascading failures in first edition AD&D from people who, for one reason or the other, started throwing out parts. let me explain something to you guys. A lot of people look at AD&D First Edition and they think it's supposed to be like a reliable family car. You get in, you close the door, you put your key in the ignition, you turn it on, you put it in gear, you pull out of the driveway, and you start going. And anything that doesn't fulfill that mission, they rip out and throw away. And the problem arises when they start tearing stuff out that they don't understand. What are these pipes here for? Why are there rubber pipes under the hood? What, they go from up here in the radiator to somewhere in the dash? The dash doesn't need to be cooled. Well, we snip those out, and then, their car starts overheating because they cut out the radiator core. Doc Flamingo, thank you very much. A member for 10 months. You love to see that. People start throwing stuff out. And the one thing I saw this mentioned by some of the people who even designed third edition about treasure for XP and how, oh, we had to fix this, that, and the other because everybody in our campaigns back when we were kids were walking Christmas trees by third or fourth level. If you are not charging the characters money to level, then yes, it can become a very Monty Hall seeming game. All right? But there are taxes to be levied. There are exchange rates. Just because you have a gold coin, I mean, the gold coin may be from the Great Kingdom, and you might find yourself in Ayuz. And guess what? The leader of Ferrionti being stamped on that gold coin may bring that cost, may bring the value of that down. Now suddenly that gold coin is only worth like 10 or is only worth 15 silver or 10 silver. And just because the price of a given gem is given to you, the players, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. Young, eager DMs, and I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. Yes, we would give the buckets of treasure mentioned in the monster manual to players. So when you say, I'm not going to charge players to level, I'm not going to worry about degree of role play ability, I'm not going to score the players, I'm not going to give the players a ranking. I'm just going to say, oh, you level up. Oh my gosh, you're 5th level and you guys can buy an entire kingdom. What happened? Well, it must be the treasure system in AD&D that's broken. No. You play by the rules. You play by the rules. And in doing so, you find, guess what? Grade your players on their play acumen. Guys, I've said this before and I'll say this again. First edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is the only form of D&D that rewards good role play. You know, I see DMs talking about, I level up as story rewards and that sort of thing. No. First edition AD&D was doing this in 1977, guys. It rewards good role play and it punishes bad role play. It impacts the value of your XP. Think about that. And it impacts the amount of gold in game because guess what? If you've been on your phone the whole time, if you're at the comic store and I'm like, well, we're waiting on Diane. She's walking around looking at dice. We're waiting on Bob. He's over there buying a new miniature. Hey, Steve, it's your turn. Would you stop painting for a second? All that, a good DM should be considering that. And that can extend out the amount of time it takes you to. Now, all of a sudden, well, you got the XP. Do you have the money to level? Because it's going to be 15 days to train, I decided. And that's going to cost a set amount of gold, 127 gold, I think, per day for you to level. You got to keep these things in mind, guys, with how the system works. Now, I handed out a lot of loot and a lot of magic items last night, all of which was worth a fair chunk of XP. But now the party's got to decide, do we try and sell some of these gadgets so we can get money so some people can level up? Or do we use the gadgets to make going out and adventuring to get more money easier, even though we won't get more XP for those people because they're capped until they level? Josh Butler, good to see you. So, saying, oh, old AD&D was Monty Hall and characters were Christmas trees and bada bada bada. Not if you're doing it as prescribed. And something else, and this is a big thing of mine, a big deal, is the amounts of treasure. And I want to look at this. I want to pop open Acrobat here. Let's look at the monster manual. This is something that I think is so overlooked. Well, Ironcaster, we're gonna take a look in the monster manual because this is important to last night. And I want to hone in on this. So let me zoom in on this and then I'll share it with you guys. And this is so important. And last night, the treasure haul they got from the Medusa was per this. So let's take a look at this. This is treasure type. And we are on page 6, I believe, of the monster manual. Treasure type refers to the table which shows the parameters for various types of valuables which the monster in question might possess. If individual treasure is indicated, each individual monster of that type will carry or possibly carry the treasure shown. Otherwise, treasures are only found in the layers of the monsters as explained above. Note also that although an encounter occurs in a monster lair and the monster possesses some treasure type, this does not automatically mean that the adventurers will gain the treasure by defeating the monster. Most treasure types show the probabilities for various kinds of wealth to occur in the treasure of the monster. If subsequent die rolls indicate that the form of treasure is not in the monster's trove, then it is not there and quite possible to come up with no wealth, including magic items of any sort, in a monster's lair, despite the fact that a treasure type is indicated. Finally, it must be stated, and this is important, treasure types are based upon the occurrence of a mean number, that's average number of monsters, as indicated by the number appearing, and adjustments detailed in the explanatory materials particular to the monster in question. Adjustments downwards should always be made for instances where a few monsters are encountered. Similarly, a minor adjustment upward might be called for if the actual number of monsters encountered is greatly in excess of the mean. The use of treasure types to determine the treasure guarded by a creature in a dungeon is generally not recommended. Larger treasures of a given type are denoted by a multiplier in parentheses times 10, etc., not to be confused with treasure type X. So Gary says, I wouldn't recommend this. I think what he's saying there, the treasure guarded by a creature in a dungeon, is like, for example, if I had written the scenario where the Medusa was watching a treasure vault, I would handpick what would be in the vault But that would not include any personal treasure of hers. But I want to go back to something. Treasure types are based on the occurrence of a mean number. An average number of monsters is indicated by the number appearing in the explanatory material to the monster in question. So let's do this real quick. Let's go down. Let's go down and let's look at Medusae. To zoom out of that a little bit. Merman, I'm going under it there. Hang on. So here we go. So Medusae we're going to focus on a couple things. Number appearing 1 to 3. There was a singular example in A2. Treasure types P, Q times 10, X, and V. So let's go to the treasure type. There was 1, and then treasure P, Q times 10, X, and V. Let's look at the Medusa not directly. Let's look at a drawing of the Medusa. Interesting thing about Medusae, the ugly snake-headed thing that could turn you to stone, that was actually a kind of a later creation. There are some early legends of the Medusae that you were basically awestruck, unable to move, and she would then slay you out of hand. But the snakes and the ugliness, oh, it's so ugly, it turns you to stone. Those were later additions to the legend. Medusa is a tragic figure, really. I'd have a hard time portraying them as heartless villains in AD&D, but they're different from the original. So that was P, Q times 10, X, V. She did have sisters. I think, Rob, or I could be mistaken about that, but I believe she did have sisters. All right, so here we go. So first of all, let's look at treasure type P. So when I rolled her up, there's only 30% chance. Please go away. Thank you. There's only a 30% chance of her having any silver. I got none. And then Electrum, as I recall, so 1 to 2,000 Electrum, 25% chance. I got Electrum, and I think it was a very high amount. But I significantly reduced that, so it came down to, if you guys will recall, somewhere like 1,200 or so Electrum. Anything else in there? No. P and Q is silver and Electrum. Now Q times 10. What is Q? 1 to 4 gems. 1 to 4 gems times 10. I got another large number here. But again, she was a singular Medusa. I think I wound up with like 40 gems when I diced her up. It was crazy. So they didn't get 40 gems. They got 12. And then X and V are just magic items. A miscellaneous plus a potion. It should have been Q, V, and X. 2 each of magic, excluding potions and scrolls. 85%. So we wound up with some swords and some wands and whatnot. And I believe that the potion was destroyed when the dwarf smashed open the treasure chest. But as you can see, I adjusted it down. I did not leave it at those lofty astronomical amounts that it might have been, despite the fact that the party wound up with a lot of loot. So that's just kind of a good example of good treasure keeping. And then when they brought it in, you know, we had a couple of one intelligent sword, one scimitar, or one intelligent sword, one intelligent scimitar. The intelligent sword, of course, was a chaotic evil, and the intelligent scimitar was lawful good. The other sword was +1, but also cursed. They got a rod of cancellation, rod of detect or a wand of detect magic, a rod of cancellation, 2 yet to be identified scrolls of some kind, a yet to be identified quarrel of crossbow bolts, the gemstones, the cloak of protection +3, the 2 suits of armor, and last but not least, of course, they got the Electrum and the Ring of Spell Story. Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Can intelligent weapons communicate with each other or just their wielder? If an intelligent weapon, well, first of all, they can only communicate, they can only do stuff when they're held, unless it's a dancing sword. And even then, it has to be picked up at least once, and it will then fall, you know, when it's done doing its dancing thing. But while they're being held, if they have a spoken voice, like if they communicate verbally, then they can communicate to other weapons. If it's by empathy only, if and only if the wielder of the weapon that communicates by empathy or semi-empathy holds another intelligent weapon and basically bridges that gap. But the sword that communicates with empathy can only communicate with the person that's wielding it, or if it wants to communicate with another sword, if they pick up another sword and hold it. Will the blades with opposite alignments fight? They might try, like, let's say we had a character in the party, let's say they got a neutral evil sword and we had a neutral character in the party. So I pick up the neutral evil sword, and then we've got the lawful good scimitar. At that point, the lawful good scimitar might try and take over the personality of the person wielding it and drive him to attack the person holding the neutral evil sword if he became aware of it. If neither one of them has detect alignment and nobody in the party says, hey, I think this sword is good aligned, or hey, I think this sword is evil aligned, then they're not really going to know. But if by some contrivance, some role play, the swords become aware of each other's alignment and they are opposite in such a radical way, again, lawful good and neutral evil, or lawful good and chaotic evil, or lawful good and any evil, or chaotic neutral and lawful neutral. You get what I'm saying. If they're of opposite aligns and they somehow become aware of each other's alignments and they can take control of the wielders through force of personality and make them fight, then very possibly. Hey, I'm not trying to get you to kill your friend. I'm just trying to get you to destroy your friend's sword. So I think they would act like that. A lot of cancellations of Twitter. Yes, we made that joke last night, which is not to say it's not still funny, Ironcaster. It very much is. Yeah, Bob. I mean, I think you wind up with like Lokai and Beal from the great Star Trek episode. Let that be your last battlefield. You know, just that they always wind up in the same horde together. Bad sword alignment will come. It's like, why do my scabbards keep tearing through? Well, here's your problem. You bad sword alignment. But anyhow, so that's just food for thought when you're out there giving out magic items. Hey, Dusty Dial Tone Zero over there on Twitter. Good evening. I am sorry I missed your comment. Good to see you. Glad to see you. So yeah, that's just how the treasure went. Now, if you guys are interested in going down this rabbit hole, looking at the Dungeon Master's Guide, there is a whole big to-do on placement of treasure. Let me see. That's right. The likes are free. I did see that, Michael, and I'm actually, I had wanted to stay away from it, but I feel like I got to say something. So I actually commented on it in Monday's show. But yeah, a video is forthcoming. About Paizo. So let's kind of take a look at this a little bit. And this again, this will put paid, no pun intended, to the idea that AD&D was kind of Monty Hall and it was quote unquote broken and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Placement of monetary treasure. Wealth abounds. It is simply awaiting the hand bold and strong enough to take it. This precept is basic to fantasy adventure gaming. Can you imagine Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser without a rich prize to aim for? Conan without a pouch full of rare jewels to squander? And are there not dragons with great hoards, tombs with fantastic wealth and fell guardians, rapacious giants with spoils, dwarven mines brimming with gems, leprechauns with pots of golds? Why, the list goes on and on. The foregoing is, of course, true, but the matter is not as simple as it might seem on the surface. First, we must consider the logic of the game. By adventuring, slaying monsters, or outwitting opponents, and by gaining treasure, the characters operating within the milieu advance in ability and gain levels of experience. While AD&D is not quite so simplistic as other games, as Other such games are regarding such advancement, it nonetheless relies upon the principle of adventuring and success thereat to bestow such rewards upon player characters and henchmen alike. It is therefore incumbent upon the creator of the Melu and the arbiter of the campaign, the dungeon master, to follow certain guidelines and charges placed upon him or her by these rules, and to apply them with intelligence in the spirit of the whole as befits the campaign Melu which they are being applied. A brief perusal of the character experience point totals necessary to advance in levels makes it abundantly clear that an underlying precept of the game is that the amount of treasure obtainable by characters is graduated from small to large as experience level increases. This most certainly does not intimate or suggest that greater treasures should be in the hundreds of thousands of gold pieces in value, at least not in readily transportable form in any event, but that subject will be discussed a bit later. First and foremost, we must consider the placement of the modest treasures which are appropriate to the initial stages of a campaign. Note, initial stages of a campaign. Gary is not blanket saying, don't let your characters have a nice hoard of coins. If we look in the G series, there's at least three or four dragons in the G series that have the classic giant pile of treasure. And that's not to even mention the giants themselves. So we're talking about the get-go. All monsters would not and should not possess treasure. The treasure types given in the monster manual are the optimums and are meant to consider the maximum number of creatures guarding them. Many of the monsters shown as possessing some form of wealth are quite unlikely to have any at all. This is not a contradiction in the rules, but an admonition to the TM to not give away too much. Any treasure possessed by weak, low-level monsters will be trifling compared to what numbers of stronger monsters might guard. So in distributing wealth amongst the creatures which inhabit the upper levels of dungeon/dungeon-like areas, as well as for petty monsters dwelling in small numbers in the wilderness, assign it accordingly. The bulk of such treasure will be copper pieces and silver. Perhaps it will be a bit of ivory or a cunningly crafted item worth a few gold pieces. Consider the giant rats in B2 Keep on the Borderlands that share their warrens with the kobolds. One of them has a silver chain worth some tens of gold pieces. Now, when you weigh that against what giant rats ought to have, it actually works out nicely. They're not guarding an exact pile of 4,000 copper pieces. Crafty Matt, good to see you. Electrum will be most unusual, gold rare, and scarcer still will be a platinum piece or small gem. Rarest of all, treasure of treasures, the magic item is detailed hereafter, placement of magic items. If some group of creatures actually has a treasure of 11 gold pieces, another will have 2,000 coppers, and yet a third nothing save a few rusty weapons. Of course, all treasure is not in precious metals or rare or finely made substances. Is not a suit of armor of great value? What of a supply of oil, a vial of holy water, weapons, provisions, animals? The upper levels of a dungeon need not be stuffed like a piggy bank to provide meaningful treasures to the clever player character. Let's unpack this for a second, guys. Let's take a step back from this. Gary is not suggesting you need to be miserly about treasures in the overall, just that in the beginning, don't dump barrels of coins on your players, unless it's some kind of trap and you're calculating the damage 20,000 copper pieces in an avalanche would do to that clumsy and intrusive thief in the party. The upper levels of a dungeon, guys, assign each monster treasure or lack thereof with reason. The group of brigands has been successful of late, and each has a few coppers left from roistering, while their leader actually has a small sum of silver hid away, coupled with salvaged armor, weapons, and any odd supplies or animals they might have around. This will be a rich find indeed for a first level party, absolutely. The giant rats have nothing at all save a nasty, filthy bite, but the centipedes living beneath a pile of rotting furniture did for an incautious adventurer some years ago, and his skeletal remains are visible still, one hand thrust beneath the debris of the nest. Hidden from view is a silver bracelet with an agate, the whole thing being valued at 20 gold pieces. Thus, intelligent monsters, or those which have an affinity for bright, shiny objects, will consciously gather and hoard treasures. Others will possibly have some as an incidental remainder of their natural hunting or self-defense or aggressive behavior or whatever. Naturally, some monsters will be so unfortunate as to have nothing of value at all, despite their desire to the contrary. But these creatures might know of other monsters whom they hate and envy who do have wealth. Hence, parley being important. In more inaccessible regions, there will be stranger monsters, whether due to numbers or individual prowess is immaterial. These creatures will have more treasure, at least those with any at all. Copper will give way to silver, silver to electrum, electrum to gold. Everyday objects, which can be sold off for a profit, the armor and weapons and such like, will be replaced by silks, brocades, tapestries, and similar items. Ivory and spices, furs and bronze statues, platinum, gems, and jewelry will trickle upward from the depths of the dungeon or in from the fastness of the wilderlands. But hold, this is not a signal to begin throwing heaps of treasure at players as if you were some mad Midas hating what he created by his touch. Always bear in mind the effect that successful gaining of any treasure or set of treasures will have upon the player characters and the campaign as a whole. Consider this example. I like this example a lot. A pair of exceedingly large, powerful, and ferocious ogres has taken up abode in a chamber at the base of a shaft which gives to the land above. From here they raid the upper lands and the dungeons round about. These creatures have accumulated 2,000 gold pieces in wealth, but it is obviously not a pair of 1,000 gold piece gems. Rather, they have gathered an assortment of goods whose combined value is well in excess of 2,000 gold nobles, the coin of the realm. Rather than stocking a treasure which the victorious players can easily gather and carry to the surface, you maximize the challenge by making it one ogres would naturally accrue in the process of their raiding. There are many copper and silver coins in a large locked iron chest. There are pewter vessels worth a fair number of silver pieces. An inlaid wooden coffer with worth 100 gold pieces alone holds a finely wrought silver necklace worth an incredible 350 gold pieces. Food and other provisions scattered about amount to another 100 or so gold nobles value, and one of the ogres wears a badly tanned fur cape which will fetch 50 gold pieces nonetheless. Finally, there are several good helmets used as drinking cups, a bardiche, and a two-handed sword with silver wire wrapped around its hilt, and a lapis lazuli pommel to make it worth 3 times its normal value, which complete the treasure. If the adventurers overcome the ogres, they must still recognize all the items of value and transport them to the surface. What is left behind will be taken by other residents of the netherworld in no time at all, so the bold victors will have quite a task before them. It did not end with a mere slaying of ogres. In a like manner, the hoard of a dragon could destroy a campaign if the treasure of Smaug in The Hobbit were to be used as an example of what such a trove should contain. Not so for the wise DM. He or she will place a few choice and portable items, some not so choice because they are difficult to carry off, and finally top, or rather bottom and top, the whole with mounds, piles, and layers of copper pieces, silver, etc. There will be much there, but even the cleverest of players will be more than hard put to figure out a way to garner the bulk of it after driving off, subduing, or slaying the treasure's guardian. Many other avaricious monsters are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to help themselves to an unguarded dragon horde, and news travels fast. Who will stay behind to mine the coins while the rest of the party goes off to dispose of the better part of the loot? Not their henchmen. What a problem. In the event that generosity should overcome you and you find that in a moment of weakness you actually allowed too much treasure to fall into the player's hands, there are steps which must be taken to rectify matters. The player characters themselves could become attractive to others seeking such gains. The local rulers will desire a share, prices will rise for services in demand from these now wealthy personages, etc. All this is not to actually penalize success. It is a logical abstraction of their actions. It stimulates them to adventure anew, and it maintains the campaign in balance. These rules will see to it that the experience levels are not gained too quickly as long as you do your part as DM. And this section got skipped so bad by people who looked at AD&D and said they had to fix it. Daniel Rowan, greetings. How are you? And then Gary goes into the fixing of magic items and their placement and the importance of moderation. But the point is, guys, don't deny your players treasure. Just make them work for it. And the sling is a large part of the working. I mean, you know, you don't have to, you don't have to like take stuff away. Rather, give it to them in a form that they're going to have to stop and consider. And one of the things that I like about the description of treasure, and some of it being plate mail, some of it being a sword, some of it being a bardiche, some of it being helmets and so on, is it sets the idea that yes, the party can gather the monster's weapons, their spears, their swords, their armor, their clothes, even in the case of the badly tanned hide cloak. All of this stuff is so important for the day-to-day planning of a campaign. Use the treasure types, but think about what that might be. 250 Electrum might be an Electrum decanter and cups, finely crafted, not 250 coins in a pile. But moderation is key. But on the backside, remember, you're going to be charging players to level. Merely going from 5th level to 6th level is a 7,500 gold piece jump. So if you're like, well, I gave him 200,000 copper pieces, you might wind up with some unhappy players. So moderate. Don't be afraid to give them coins. But early on, don't be afraid to make the treasure items. And there's plenty of places in the Caves of Chaos that do just that. I mean, you look at the accumulated wealth in the keep on the Borderlands, and so much of it in the keep are fine wines, clothes, jewelry, magic items, just fine items in general. So if last night's treasure handout, and nobody complained, like I'm not, like this is not a pointed comment at anyone where I'm like, for those of you who had problems with it. No, I'm just saying the party did win all that treasure, and the Medusa, she's just various items and coins being dropped by the creatures that she was turning into stone. Just something to be considered. And something else that shouldn't be overlooked, and I'm going to talk about this at the appropriate time. Something else that shouldn't be overlooked are treasure maps. I would say, look, if your back is up against the wall and you want the players to have a bunch of treasure, but you also want them to work a little bit harder than we killed some giant rats, maybe, okay, so giant rats have treasure type C. And if we come over to the monster manual and you start dicing up treasure type C, let's do that. You know what? Let's do that. Giant rats have treasure type C. Let's see what kind of treasure we can get with treasure type C on giant rats. There it is. Okay. Let's pull up DD dice here and let's roll up some treasure type C. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I really do. If you're enjoying this, if you like what I'm doing, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a super chat and sorry. Give it a thumbs up, like the video, or if you're watching this later, leave a comment down below. All right, so let's hop into DD Dice here and see if it's going to roll up for us tonight. It certainly is taking its own sweet time to load the DD Dice website. I hope that'll come up. I'm going to have to do this so you guys can see the dice when they roll. All right, so here we go. So 20% chance of 1 to 12,000 copper. Here we go. First roll, 20% chance. 73. So no copper. I hope we get some. $71, and that is silver. We had a 30% chance. Not much, our dubs, aka Mr. Flamboyant. We're just talking some guy gags. We have a 10% chance of 1 to 4,000 gold. That's negatory. We have a 25% chance of 1 to 6 gems. Negative. And anything else? 1 to 3 jewelry, we have a 20% chance. No. And last but not least, any 2 maps or magic, 10% chance. Come on. 85. So treasure type C comes up bupkis. But that goes back to... nobody's getting this. We're just doing an example there, Mr. Nixon. We're just doing an example. No one's getting this treasure. I would caution Dungeon Masters against giving away too much treasure. You know, because I warned them. I said, you give away too much treasure and you're going to get too many opportunities. The dice did screw us. But let us say, just for the sake of the argument that we came up with some silver. Remember, we're not doing this. We're not actually considering the rats. Let's just say we came up with some silver and it's an average number of rats. So we're just going to go ahead and roll a D6 and we're going to say 6,000 silver. Now you divide that by 20 and you get 300, of course. So 300 gold worth of silver, but to a low-level party, that's pretty extensive. But let's say you don't want to just have the rats. Like, we open the door, we kill the rats, and there's 6,000 silver in there. There's always the chance that what you find is someone stripped down to the bones, completely eaten alive, and they're holding a brass scroll tube. Robot Nixon from Futurama. Okay, here we go. Robot Nixon from Futurama. I've got a robot body, and I've gone crazy. Aroo! Nixon is back, and I'm pissed. There. All right. So we've got 6,000 silver pieces. We want a little bit more. And what do? This is where we can have a little bit of fun with a treasure map. This is where we can have fun with a treasure map. Let's talk about maps. Let's talk about treasure maps for just a moment. It's only there twice. Let's see. Now I told Congress I have a treasure map, and it well, it was something, you know. We tried to go to China with a treasure map and you know, negotiate with them. Okay. So we've determined that this is to be a map to monetary treasure, which most are. A map to monetary treasure. That's 06 to 70. My party just looted a sunken pirate ship on the back of a Zaratan and received 4 sets of charts maps leading to various islands in the archipelago they're adventuring in. There you go. Excellent treasure, Daniel. Thumbs up. Very cool. All right, so let's take a look at this. A map should never list its treasure, only show its location. So where are our 6,000 gold coins or our 6,000 silver pieces going to be? Let's start dicing this up. And if you guys want to follow along, we are on page 120 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. You know, I said to Gygax, you're going to give too much treasure away, and I cautioned him against it. You know, I warned him, and you know, if we don't intervene, if we do not act on this, we're going to see characters going to a gold standard, and you know, that's completely untenable. So let's go ahead and jump in there. You guys can follow along on page 120 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. So here we go. We're going to roll percentile dice first. A 1 to 20 is a labyrinth of caves found in the lair. 21 to 60, outdoors 5 to 8 miles distance. 61 to 90, outdoors 10 to 40 miles distance. 91 to 100, outdoors 50 to 500 miles distant. So let's roll percentile dice. And if I get a super chat, I will do the rest of the treasure map as Alex Jones. So what do we get there? We get a 20. That is the labyrinth of caves found in the lair. So that's fairly nearby where the giant rats are. One D100, Dimitri. One die only. We will avoid this treasure table for now. Doc Flement. $2 is a super chat. That's what it is. I tried to warn you people. They didn't want you to know where the treasures were. I know where the treasures are, and I'm going to tell you. And tell where you can find it. Colloidal silver treasures. That's right. You can buy it right now. You buy colloidal silver potions. Doc Flamingo knows. I tried to warn him. I was told Joe Rogan. I said, Joe, they're going to try to keep this information from you. It's going to be the time of the beast. What do I do, oh Lord? And I prayed. All right. So, well, I said I was going to do the whole thing. Labyrinth of caves found in the lair. Now the treasure shown on the map. We know what it is. They don't want you to know. I know. And I'm going to tell you. On 1 to 10, the treasure is buried and unguarded. Gygax tried to warn you folks. Hide your foods. 11 to 20, hidden in water, a boating accident. That's right. You tell them it was a boating accident. Guarded in a lair. That's your 21 through 70. They don't want you to know that. I'm telling you that, folks. 71 to 80, somewhere in a ruin, this society's going to fall. I'm trying to warn you. It's in a burial crypt. That's your 81 to 90. It's in a burial crypt. That's right. It's a crypt somewhere in the Bohemian Grove. You can buy my video on the subject, folks. 91 to 100. It's secreted in a town. It's all around you, people. That's what he's trying to warn you about. I'm just doing a Bill. I'm just doing an Alex Jones impersonation. All right, so there are our possibilities. My throat is dying, so we're just going to go ahead and roll to see which one it is. Perhaps we'll revisit Alex. It was only $2, so come on. You guys got a lot of entertainment for $2. All right, so 21 to 7, it's guarded in a lair. So our 6,000 copper are guarded in a lair. Now, what that lair is, you as the DM can just go and have fun with it. And that's what you do. That, guys, that there is your monetary and magical treasure placement and combined hoards. So don't feel like it has to be the trope of one orc in a room guarding a chest that has 10 gold pieces in it. The secret treasure, 1 silver piece, 5 feet wide. Yeah. Oh, that would be evil. The party goes, there's a large metal table in the middle of the room. Oh, okay, all right. I look under the table. I check it for doors, etc. It's just a giant platinum piece. It's just an inch thick platinum disc as the top of the table. I had that happen once. I something similar to that, Robert. I had a random encounter with kobolds, and they had just a low-level game-breaking item. I don't think it's possible to wind up with artifact. It is not possible to wind up with artifact level items in Magic Treasure, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, or in the Monster Manual. You have to put those there yourself. So you brought that on yourself. But yeah, I've had some low level monsters wind up with just stupid powerful stuff in their hordes. And because I'm the DM and I do believe in living and dying by the die roll, there was still stuff that I was just like, no. No, there is no reason that the kobolds have a staff of wizardry, and I'm not letting my first level party have it. Just no. It's bad game design. Oh, just let the die, you're fudging the die roll as a DM if you do that. That, hands up, if you can tell me the E1M1 for any of the classic Doom games, E1, E2, EM, E3, or E4 M1s that start you off with a BFG, and that is basically what the Staff of Wizardry is in AD&D. None. Does the weight capacity of Tensor's floating disk increase as the magic user levels up? Savo says 3,000 gold piece shares of a goblin marriage counseling company guarded by a disgruntled customer. I like the image. Savo, I've got to ask, are we talking about the thick with two C's goblin that were so popular in 2023? We're talking about those kind of goblins, Savo. How many XP do you get for selling a BFG? I don't know. Let's look at the player's handbook and let's look up Tensor's floating disk. I can never remember if Gary spelled it disc with a K or disc with a C. So yeah, there was, it started out as a, haha, we're just ironically saying sexy little green goblin, short stack dummy mommies. Haha, wink, wink. It's just, we're being ironic, but goblins are really awful. And here's my sexy art of one of them that I'm going to constantly spam Facebook with, but it's ironic, wink, wink, So Tensor's floating disk. Let's check out the description. When Doom Eternal came out, the Bethsoft guys included, yes, that goblin trope, Savo. The Bethsoft guys let them include a BFG in. There was like a short 1 or 2 node mission in Fallout 4. The Cult of the Atom had an advanced plasma weapon that they had looted from a laboratory, and there was an almost completely gone ghoul who had stolen this thing and was armed with it, and you have to take them down, and you can give the BFG back to the cult, or you can keep it yourself. It was pretty neat. All right, so here we go. Because someone asked, and I, of course, am your humble servant. Tensor's floating disk. Duration 3 turns plus 1 turn per level. Area of effect special. With this spell, the caster creates a circular plane of null gravity known as Tensor's floating disk after the famed wizard of that appellation, whose ability to locate treasure and his greed to recover every copper found are well known. The disk is concave, 3 feet in diameter, and holds 1,000 gold piece weight per level of the magic user casting the spell. The disc floats at approximately 3 feet above the ground at all times and remains level likewise. It maintains this constant interval of 6 feet between itself and the magic user. If unbidden, it will otherwise move within its range as well as along with him or her at a rate of 6 inches or 60 feet at the command of the magic user. If the spellcaster moves beyond range or if the spell duration expires, the floating disc winks out of existence and whatever it was supporting is precipitated to the surface beneath it. The material component of the spell is a drop of mercury. So 1,000 GP weight per level of the magic user casting the spell. It is a first level spell, so you're going to get 1,000 gold pieces weight or 100 pounds if you can cast it out of the box. Now, something to be considered. Please note, it is 3 feet in diameter. The 20th level magic user can carry 20,000 gold piece weight or 2,000 pounds. That's not 3 feet diameter, is not 20,000 gold coins. It's not. I mean, if you organize it in bags, possibly, maybe you can pile them on there. But I'm just going to scoop up all the coins with it. Not 3 feet in diameter, not 20,000 coins. Three feet in diameter is about that far across. A D&D coin is about that big around, about that thick. So keep that in mind when you have the player saying, we just load everything on the Tensor's floating disk and carry it out of the dungeon because Bob is a 5th level wizard, so that's 5,000 coins. We're good, right? Are they? Now, if the party wanted to build some kind of a beer that they could then pile the treasure on top of the floating disc, or where the floating disc could then pick it up, possibly. 20th level magic user to carry Errol Flynn's ego. Let's not get crazy. That's still pretty heavy. Gonzalo's just thinking about the magic sword. But anyhow, that's that I hope that answers your question about floating disc. Does anybody else have any other questions? Any other questions? Because I've had fun chit-chatting tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to talk more D&D deep dives, rules, information that I can bring to y'all. But in the interim, just bounce any questions off of me you've got, guys. I'm not in any particular hurry. I'm just opening up the floor to questions. I will scroll back. Mercury, liquid metal at room temperature. Super hard to acquire. Very expensive. Up to the DM. Does my chewing gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? That's an oldie. That one's older than me. Question, HP with cleric spells per level. Could you expand on that? Tony Wagenhauser. Could you expand on that, please? We're not done, John Strain. I'm just opening up the floor. Just waiting for Savo to give me their email address so I can send them an invite to the show. Impromptu live interview. Well, cure light wounds and cure serious wounds, like the number of hit points you get back is the same. A 20th level cleric casting cure light wounds heals 1 to 8 points of damage. He just has, or she, just have a lot more curative spells. Cure serious, cure critical, and heal. That does not increase. That never increases. 10th level cleric casting cure light went. Oh, how many can they cast? How many can they cast? Okay, all right. Yeah, well, that's just a simple function of looking at the cleric and how many castings they how many spells they can cast per level. Remembering that a cleric with a sort of, Savo, sort of. I will come back to that, but I want to answer this clerical question real quick. Keep going to the cleric here. Okay, so at base level, let's say 10th. Did you say 10th or 12th? Okay, so 10th level cleric, four up to four cure light wound spells. Now let's assume that is an 18 wisdom cleric. If we look at wisdom for the cleric, an 18 wisdom grants 2 additional first level spells, so that could be as many as 6. Savo asks, is there any mechanic in AD&D where weapon damage scales with level? Yes. Yes, there is. Rangers specifically get that against giant and giant kin monsters. So goblins, hobgoblins, orcs, kobolds, ogres, gnolls, giants, ogre magi. I'm sure I'm missing some. Trolls, Etten. I feel like I'm absolutely missing some. Rangers do a point of damage per every level that they have gained to those types of monsters when they attack them. So a 10th level ranger attacking a hill giant with a longsword, all other things being nominal, will do 1d12 plus 10 points of damage every time they attack. Every time they attack. So that will adjust the weapon damage. And that is with any melee weapon, I should point out. Any melee weapon. Arrows don't do 1d6 plus 10. But any melee weapon that they are attacking with that a ranger can use will get their level in additional damage versus giantkin. Rangers are lethal to the Dutch. I guess. Cherries, very small. What about bananas? Now this is a little esoteric, Savo. You may not consider this a quote unquote bonus to damage scaling with level, but fighters of all mark, fighter, ranger, paladin, and any combination, dual class or multi-class of fighter that gets high enough level, at some point, at around 8th level, I think they start getting multiple attacks per round. At 8th, they start 2, 3. It may be different for rangers and paladins, but they do 1 attack, 2 attack, 1 attack, 2 attack. If they're hitting with both attacks, sorta, kinda, they're doing more damage, but not per attack. So that's a little obtuse. So I don't think it really fits. Okay, Savo, I got you. Yeah, fighters are just benefiting by getting the additional attacks, but not the specialized, I know just how to stab you to make it hurt even more, that rangers get against the aforementioned giant kin, which apparently also includes the Dutch. Or American basketball players. So, yeah, not so much. Now, Um, I don't know much about anything that isn't AD&D or OD&D, so if this isn't right, I'm sure somebody's going to call me out on it. But I think in like starting maybe in late 2E or with third edition. I played a lot of third edition, but I don't think this ever came up that a paladin got like bonus versus evil creatures like rangers used to get bonus versus giant kin, but I don't know. I don't know. Uh I mean, it does become easier for fighters. It becomes easier for everybody to hit over time. Even magic users, as they level up, get slightly better at melee combat, even if they're never doing it. Which, to be honest, they shouldn't be unless they're fighter magic user cleric, magic user thief, what have you. So, again, hope that answers the question. Let's see. Next question. What is a magical enchantment modeling? Exceptional sharpness, nasty micro serrations, divine favor, poisonous metal. All yes. Could be all of it, could be none of it, could be some of it. I would say a lot of it is just divine favor. Um, you know, you've imbued this with exceptional capabilities. I mean, um, the elven smiths of Gondolin who forged Glamdring and Orcrist and of course Sting. Um, and then again, Narsil reforged Narsil into Anduril. The the blades of Westerness that all the hobbits had as well. Those weapons were all imbued with a little bit of magic. And as far as what it's modeling, it could just be an ancient technique, a monomolecular edge, just kind of a preternatural sense of balance that makes it easier to use than any any weapon. I mean, imagine a sword that you could swing around as easily as a twig instead of the 2 or 3 pounds of metal that it is. With no balance imperfections, no heavy point, no heavy pommel. It feels like an extension of you. Yeah, I remember the smite attack and the charisma bonus and so on, etc. It got pretty ridiculous. What's the most exotic that I've had in one of my campaigns? Um, Intelligent weapons. I can't really say as I've had anything like an intelligent but lawful good 9 lives stealer that can also teleport and grant 1 wish a month or something. I've never had anything like that. I would just say an intelligent weapon. Wave, Whelm, and Black Razor from White Plume Mountain. I think that's the most exotic. So, Drone Swarm touches on something important. The details of combat are definitely abstract in AD&D. They are abstract in the extreme in AD&D to keep the game fast moving. Your 1 to 4 damage with your dagger. I did 4 points of damage. Was it a single thrust? Was it a series of small cuts? Was it 2 solid stabs? You know, did you slice them across the chest and then bash them in the face with a pommel? It's who knows. Sentient non-weapon. There are a few. There are a few. If you look in the artifact section of the Dungeon Master's Guide, there are a few there are a few items that have intelligence and ego. So yeah, you can have intelligent non-weapon magic items. You can do whatever you want in your campaign. If you're asking me about by the book, there are a few artifacts like that, but by and large, it's constrained strictly to swords in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But then we have other weapons. And I asked Jim about that, and he said, "Oh, absolutely, yeah. Why not have other weapons? An intelligent spear, an intelligent mace, what have you." Did I talk about? I mentioned a 9 life stealer. I mentioned a 9 life stealer, but I haven't discussed a vampiric sword that's the only way for you to heal ever. I can have a quick gander for it here. I don't think it does that. Let's see, the 9 life stealer. Let's see, sword +2, 9 life stealer will always perform as a +2 weapon, but it also has the power to draw the life force from an opponent, and it can do so only a total of 9 times before the ability is lost. A nat 20 must be scored on the wielder's 2 hit for the sword to function. The opponent is entitled to a saving throw, and if it is successful, the sword does not function, no charge is used, and normal damage is determined. So, yeah. Now, there's a ring of regeneration, the ring of. Good night, Jorge. See you tomorrow. The ring of regeneration. The rare form is the vampiric ring of regeneration, bestows 1/2 the value of hit points of damage the wearer inflicts upon opponents in hand-to-hand, melee, non-missile, non-spell combat. Immediately upon its wearer. It does not otherwise cause regeneration or restore life, limb, or organ. To determine what type of ring is discovered, a 1 to 90 ring of regeneration, 91 to 100 vampiric regeneration ring. In no case can the wearer's hit points total exceed that initially generated. So I don't think there's in first edition AD&D a weapon that reduces you to only ever receiving healing from the weapon. And if there is, it's an edge case in a module, not something mainline in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So make of that what you will. And let me. It would really be awkward to find oneself changing the litter box of a sword one went to war with. Yeah. Yeah. So the Staff of the Magi, at least in AD&D, does this because it did come up. This potent staff contains many spell powers and other functions, as well as as well so as to be a walking arsenal in one device. The staff has the following powers, which do not drain charges: detect magic, enlarge, hold portal, light, protection from good or evil. The following powers drain one charge per usage: invisibility, knock, pyrotechnics, web, dispel magic, fireball, lightning bolt, ice storm, wall of fire, pass wall. These powers drain 2 charges per usage: whirlwind, plane travel, conjure elemental, telekinesis. The whirlwind is identical to that caused by a djinn. Plane travel is similar to the psionic ability of probability travel, but travel is possible only to the various planes. The staff can be used to conjure 1 elemental of each type per day, each having 8 hit dice. Telekinesis is at 8th level, i.e. 200 pounds maximum weight. +2 to all saving throws versus magic. The staff gives you that. Absorbs magic user spell energy directed at its wielder, but if the staff absorbs energy beyond its limit, it will explode just as if a retributive strike, see below, had been made. The spell levels of energy absorbed count only as recharging the staff, but they cannot be redirected immediately. So if absorption is desired, that is the only action possible by the staff wielder that round. Note also that the wielder has no idea of how many spell levels are cast at him, for the staff does not communicate this knowledge, as does a rod of absorption. Therefore, absorbing spells can be risky. Absorption is the only way the staff can be recharged. Retributive strike is breaking the staff. It must be purposeful and declared by the magic user wielding it. When this is done, all levels of spell energy in the staff are released in a globe 3 inches in radius. All creatures within 1 inch of the broken staff take hit points equal to 8 times the number of spell levels of energy, 1 to 25. Those between 1 and 2 take 6 times, and those between 2 and 3 take 4 times. Successful saving throws versus magic indicate only 1/2 damage is sustained. The magic user breaking the staff has a 50% chance of plane traveling to another plane of existence, but if he or she does not, the explosive power totally destroys him or her. This and the staff of power are the only magic items capable of retributive strike. What happens to a magic scroll after the spell is cast? Poof, spare kindling, toilet paper, new page in the old sketchbook. New page in the old sketchbook. It basically, the spell goes away, and the parchment can't be, or vellum or what have you, can't be reused for another scroll. This is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, Injun Joe. This is all in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Page 134. Or are you asking which edition? First edition AD&D. That's the only one I ever consult on the show. So. Excuse me, guys. Kind of tired. But anyway, yeah, so by and large, unless the item in question is listed, swords in first edition AD&D are all, well, weapons in first edition AD&D are all that get intelligence. And that's just a little talk about treasure. Just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions if anyone had any. Also, Savo, changing a sword's litter box is something I could see poor Feifel consigned to. Definitely. All right. Well, I think in lieu of any questions, we're probably going to go ahead and wrap there for the evening then. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. It was a lot of fun doing this deep dive. I am always happy to bring you that information, be it as Nixon or, of course, as Alex Jones. But thank you all very much for being here. Shout out to Doc Flamingo, member for 10 months. Finally caught one live. I'm glad you caught it live, Doc Flamingo. And thank you very much for the super, Doc Flamingo. I absolutely appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow night. We are going to talk about some more fun stuff. But wherever you go and whatever you do, everyone, do keep your eyes peeled for those dreaded owlbears. Peace. Good night. Love you all. See you in the funny papers.